I'll start it out as soon. Oh, there we go. We're live.
Hi, everyone. How you doing? This is Chanan, and I'm with my brother and my buddy.
Joey Lott, that's me. And today we're going to be talking to you about what is awakening. You know, we throw this term around. Everybody kind of has a sense that this is what they want, but what is it really that we're talking about? I think that's really important that we can define it. You know, in the past, we didn't define it. In the past, people just didn't define it. They just said, hey, you want enlightenment? Come get it. But now we're at a point in time in which we really need to get that clarity, because actually it's becoming more available, more accessible, but we need to have the clarity so that we can take the right steps instead of wasting our time in suffering. Basically.
That's right. And the truth is that regardless of where you are on your spiritual journey, you have notions and ideas about what an awakening and what enlightenment is and what it looks like, or you've had some past experiences and those tastes have given you something to kind of seek after that we think it is. And I think what we want to first just kind of get really clear on is that it is your ideas and realizations that are circumventing your direct experience of inner peace right now.
Yeah, that's right.
So first and foremost, actually, let us just tell you that, you know, Joey and I are here to support awakening. We have a mission to help 2 million people awaken in the next 3 years. Now that's kind of a gastronomical goal, right? But we know that that's possible because if we all take a look at what's going on in the world right now, we can take a look at why awakening is necessary and why awakening is actually the solution to every single conflict, struggle, problem in your life. Okay. Yeah. So we already know that meditation works. At this point, you know, science has jumped in on that. Science agrees. Meditation is good for the body and so on and so forth. But those are just kind of like the starters. See, what we want you to understand is what meditation really is shifting your attention out of your mind. And that meditation and awakening are one and the same. In the moment of the clarity, the connectivity of oneness, we've all experienced that oneness in a moment of orgasm, in a moment in nature, where many of you maybe have already had multiple essential experiences where you recognize it's really all connected. It's really all one. And in that moment, you're kind of there, but you're not there. Everything's perfect. So since we have heard in spiritual teachings that it's all now and it's all already here, that awakening is oneness. It is you being. The mind always has commentary and ideas about that. The mind labels, dissects, compartmentalizes every experience or notion of everything. So to have an authentic clarity on awakening is to really drop all your notions. Yeah. Recognize the experience that you're seeking in some future event or trying to maintain. That's not it.
Or get back to. It's usually getting back to. I mean, that's the thing, is that it's about, we're constantly trying to recreate. And this is one of the key points that we emphasize over and over, is that every experience, every realization, every awakening can be co-opted by the mind. It can be taken and twisted and perverted by the mind into an object or a desire that the mind says you can recapture in the future if you try hard enough, if you do the right things. And so it takes everything. You know, you might have that authentic awakening experience in nature, during orgasm, holding your child for the first time, maybe in meditation, maybe taking psychedelics. All of these different scenarios, contexts in which the awakening can take place, but then the mind twists it and says, oh, what did I do in order to produce that experience so that I can reproduce it? And then we're off seeking to reproduce the same experience. And guess what? That's suffering, because we can't reliably reproduce that experience from the mind, because the mind doesn't have an understanding and can't possibly have an understanding of what awakening really is. Now the mind can have a clue, and we can help the mind to finally rest. And that's delightful. But awakening is not of the mind. And that's really important. It's not an experience that you're reproducing. It's actually accessing what's already here, what you already are. And it's really about just seeing clearly by shifting attention out of the mind and naturally resting in the awareness and the oneness that you already are.
That's right. And, you know, right now, the conversation about awakening has grown more. You know, when I first started sharing in 2002, direct awakening to oneness, the conversation now is vastly expanded, right? I mean, more people than ever are discussing awakening and having ascension and are interested in meditation. So there's a quickening happening in the world right now. You know, like I say, there's like 43 gigabytes of information that go through the mind stream in a given day, right? That's more information than people 100 years ago experienced in a lifetime. There's more seemingly darkness, but there's not just more darkness. There's more awareness and conversation of that darkness. Like, we're ready for something new. We all are ready for something new. And you've heard that spiritual notion again. So these spiritual notions, they're true, and then they become band-aids because the mind co-opts them, and they become like almost like a junkie getting a quick little hit, a spiritual experience, right? So what awakening really is the possibility of knowing who you are. And in that moment, the ease and freedom from the survival animal. Right? The entire animal is trying to survive and be okay, maintaining this separate me identity. And often in all that, we call that separation paradigm. So let's take a look at what is separation paradigm, right, Joey? You know, separation paradigm is literally that everything that is happening in duality. We're not saying you get rid of duality, right? Good, bad, dark, light. Duality exists. In fact, if you only had honey your entire life, and you never had an opportunity to actually have salt, it would not be the same thing as if you had honey and then for the first time you taste salt and then you have honey again. So the mind, the perceptual field, duality allows us to be here, allows us to be human beings, allows us to have this experience.
Allows us to broadcast live on Facebook. You know, I mean, that's the thing, is that we're not here denying. There's always been, in the old ways, there's always actually been this disconnect, because there's the spiritual teacher who's promoting something that promoting oneness, right? But then it's always through a particular vehicle, which is kind of denying the reality that we're all inhabiting this reality, which includes all of it. It's not just the nice stuff. It's not just the stuff that feels good, right? Because we see, like, you know, just like Chanan just said, you know, it is like being a junkie. And so I've never tried it, but I'm pretty sure, based on the number of people who shoot up heroin, that it must be kind of pleasurable. But then we see what the result of that is, because if you're just constantly going for that fix, that's not working out so well, is it? And that's what we're really pointing to, is that if you keep seeking in separation paradigm to get to oneness, then all you're doing is you're reinforcing separation paradigm, which equals suffering. So you will continue to suffer as long as you're seeking. And that's something that most of us haven't seen until now. But when you really see that, you see that the seeking is the suffering. And what we're really inviting you to is to finally stop the seeking and discover the truth of who you are.
And the possibility of recognizing separation paradigm, right? We're stuck in our minds, we're saying. So it's being stuck in our minds. We believe ourselves to be our body and our mind, right? And we start to, maybe along this journey of the spiritual journey, come to the realization or some kind of clarity, reading something that, oh, maybe I'm not my thoughts. Maybe I'm not my body. What we have to recognize is that the moment we are identified in what we like to call an access point, special me, and the mind trying to maintain special me, the minute we're identified in that, we're in separation. If we're separate, we can be destroyed, right? If you believe yourself to be a separate entity, you can die, you can be destroyed. So that separate entity is now trying to go seek out and get awakening or sustained awakening in some future time, right? And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but that's operating this do, have, be paradigm. And that's all of life is operating that do, have, be paradigm. But the truth is being first, right? And there's no concept that is actually can hold you. The finite.
And you can
can't hold the limitlessness.
And you can really see, actually, in your direct experience right now. You know, I'd really encourage everybody to check it out and notice, because what Chanan just said about the do, have, be of separation paradigm, when you really hear that, it's profound, because what we're pointing to is that being is always here. And the mind wants to make that complicated, and it wants to turn it into something that you have to do. You know, you see how quickly that happens. Is, okay, great, now I'm on board with that. What do I do? so that I can have, so then I can be free. But what we're saying is no, you already are. The mind will always overlook that. But you can check it out right now and notice in your actual direct experience. Just don't turn to the mind for a second and tell the truth, which is that you already are. The mind wants to dismiss that, but that's profound because that is the space that allows everything to happen. Without you being, there's nothing else. That's clearly the most powerful, is you being. So
direct access, direct awakening. The mind right away is going to say, no, that can't be it. It can't be simple like that. Why? Because the mind has to create a problem to solve a problem and always has to keep things separate, maintaining that special me. So it's not going to be destroyed. So as long as we're operating in any kind of identification with our mind, even if that's a spiritual mind, then there's suffering. You can be destroyed. And that is the angst and the root of all anxiety and suffering in your life. So the opening is to recognize that you're here. So you start to recognize that the mind is operating. We don't have to stop the mind. We don't have to get rid of the mind. We recognize the main functions of the operating system, as we've identified 5 main patterns that keep us identified in access points. And as we see this identification, we start to shift out of our mind. No longer being stuck in the survival animal, we begin to rest in being and accessing being. So if I ask you a question right now, notice that your mind will have its quick answer based on the past, based on the compartmentalization of what you've experienced, learned, or figured out in the past. So simple question. I just want you to notice, do you have to do anything to be? And I'm not talking about gates of heaven open, ooh, just to exist, just to be here. Do you have to do anything to be? So the mind will have its answer, no, or yeah, but. You really just take the look. Are you here? What's not already here right now? So it's like the nose in front of you, it's so slight that the sleight of hand of the mind will trick you right back into the mind, right back into separation. But for a moment, just really recognize that you don't have to do anything to be. The world doesn't show us to explore being. It's all been about outer. But to explore being free of the mind trying to hold on to it or maintain it, it doesn't need maintaining. Now doesn't need maintaining. Everything's included in now. It's completely inclusive. Like some great opening of oneness experience you had, it pointed to that experience. That experience pointed to the inclusiveness. But yet, like the junkie, we become chasing the next experience, like experience junkies, getting the next experience, getting the next experience, getting the next high, figuring it out. And really, it's all to avoid what? This fear of being destroyed, the survival animal. So when we can unidentify with the mind and discover that being is actually it, and we can allow this muscle to root, shift our power of our attention to being itself, we start to open in our daily lives to meditation everywhere. And I think the real big thing to understand is that even in most of the concepts of what awakening is, we have an idea of our higher self and our lower self. I talk about this in a video on YouTube, right? But higher self and lower self are still separate, right? It's like there's bad you and then there's better you. And how many people out there have their mind tell them when they're no good and that they should be better? Right? We're raised from a young age into what is right and wrong, what is good and bad, what am I going to be when I grow up? We call this the individual mind traps and access points. You've been tranced into who you're going to be, what you're going to do, and how you're going to find peace and happiness. And the truth is, self-help practices and then spiritual practices, though they may be openings in work, they end up just being regurgitated back into that same way of how you're going to go about getting something and doing something.
Yeah.
So your true oneself, who you really are, is already whole and complete. And if your mind goes, yeah, I know that, then you didn't just really receive it.
That's right.
Who you are is always here. And it takes you going into your mind to deny that. Just like your nose being here is here. Your nose is here. Is your nose there, Joey?
My nose is here. And what we're really saying is that, like, just like your nose is always here, just like your heart is always beating, just like you're always breathing, the truth of who you are is always here. It's actually impossible to get out of that, or to reject it, it's always, always, always here. And it's only not obvious because you give your attention to what comes and goes and believe yourself to be that. But the reality is that it's truly possible for you to shift your attention from the mind simply by resting as you are. In that rest, just like your heart beats, just like you breathe, just like your nose is always here, just like every experience is fully being received now effortlessly, you are always you. And what we've discovered is a simple process that's done in life. And the outcomes of this are phenomenal. And we're really excited to share that with you. And we actually are hosting an event, a masterclass, in which we would like to invite you to join us. We're going to share this in more detail. And we'll also be opening it up to questions and answers at the end. So please join us live for that. And you can do that by typing class, CLASS, into the comments below if you're watching this on Facebook. And that will then send you an invite so that you can join us for the event. And we'd love to see you there.
That's right. And in this masterclass that we're calling Awaken to Your True-OneSelf, in this masterclass, we're really going to break down for you how we've seen that all the other ways of trying to find freedom are in your way.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to take a look at that accessing oneness is actually possible anywhere, anytime. And that's the big deal. That we're not just interested in you waking up. We're interested in your living an awake life. You see, the separation paradigm, the special me, the religion of me, that is not going to help us have a transformation ourselves or a transformation in the world. And what we stand for really is, like we said, helping 2 million people awaken in the next 3 years. Because we are clear. We have children, you know. Some of you have children out there. How precious are your children to you? And if you don't have children, how precious are your loved ones to you? So yeah, you can just be spiritual. It's all okay. It does work out. It doesn't mean anything. Or you can tell the truth that it is meaningful to you already. And that the possibility of true world transformation will come in a shift of consciousness.
Yeah.
So we're inviting you to take responsibility for your awakening. To not let it be just something, yeah, it'll happen, or yeah, I'm kind of already awake, but to really tell the truth. Where are you stuck? Where is there blockage? Where is there an obstacle that keeps you from actually in any moment, in every moment? Because if awakening is really true freedom, then it's everywhere. Then there should never be a spot or a moment where you can't discover yourself and know yourself. You are everywhere.
That's right.
This is really the essential clarity of what awakening is recognizing that you are truly already whole, complete, and one right now. And then to stabilize in that awakening, for those of you who have already been on this journey and are awake, recognize all the notion and ideas you have about your awakening and your understandings about it, and how you're going to make it more and how you're going to awaken more. Because a lot of people find it scary and weird, and there's lists of symptoms of awakening and all that stuff. What we can tell you is that all that is still operating this separation paradigm. We can train you out of your mind and out of that separation paradigm so that you are directly experiencing and accessing oneness in every moment of your life. And in the past, it was wrong to say you could just train someone into enlightenment. Well, we live in 2019. The world is ready for this. You're ready for this.
Yeah.
Awakening.
And by the way, well, I mean, what I want to add to that is, and we say this frequently, and it's an important point, which is that awakening is really just the beginning. Right. And we're really wanting to invite people to this movement of awakening, which is I mean, it's like you open the door and you step in and like, wow, it's so nice. You want more people to enjoy this because, we're talking about, your awakening, then stabilizing in that awakening so that you can live moment to moment,
Yeah.
the truth, the true peace and stillness of meditation, of these peak experiences, the real core essence of that, to live that moment to moment, every moment of your life. And then to really live on that, to live the creative impulse, right? I mean, there's so much more that we're wanting to invite you to,
Yeah.
and it just gets better and better.
And then, and to add one thing on top of that, Joey, is that so I think you take a look at the ideas. If you can come to the masterclass, or even just now for this day for you, but I would love to see you there, is to take a look at all the ideas that you have now based in the past or what you've heard of what enlightenment is and awakening is, okay? Yeah. What it is to ascend. And I think the real thing you need to take a look at is that all these miracles, synchronicities, living in flow, all of that is being sought after in the separation paradigm. So you can be great at law of attraction, but still identified in separate me, and ultimately means that there's a void, an uncomfortable feeling that you're trying to replace with something better. And until it's met, until you're really here with that, you can't really be free. Because if you're running from something or it's running you, then you're still in slavery. Right? What did Bob Marley say? Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. So what is the self that he's talking about that can free the mind? So you are not your mind, clearly. You are that self. But how do you discover that self and live from that self? So I want you to look at all the notions that you have about that and recognize that you have to turn to your mind to have those notions, right? You got to turn to a separate thing to have those notions. So the people that want peace are against the people that want war. The people that want war against the people that want peace. The transformation is an evolution of consciousness. And in that, guess what? Big, like Dharma bell alert. This doesn't mean that the human isn't included in that, right? On the journey, we're getting rid of the human. We want to show you that it's possible to awaken and then include the human. And guess what? From attention rooted in being, that's the key. Attention rooted being, you blossom, you awaken, you stabilize. But then there's like what some people like to call ascension. I like to call it ascension to the greatest expression of who you are. Yeah. And that's where flow, that's where the miracles start to pour from, not from you seeking somewhere else, but you actually start to live from now. You live in reality, not in the distortion of reality. So again, you just can type the word class in the comments below. If you'd like to be registered, there may be a masterclass, I believe, going on tonight, right? Yep. And there'll be a few more coming. So get on the mailing list. You can also go to brianmark.com/masterclass. Check us out. We will be going live pretty much daily, Joey and I. You can check out Joey at joeylott.com. I'm at brianmark.com. We're both here together on Facebook, and we're both have come together. We've helped affect the lives of thousands of people really having this shift. And it's simple. You guys got to understand, it's so simple that it's for a beginner and it's for an advanced person. Most people we work with have been at this for 10, 20, 30 years. So simple. We just need to offer you the right clarity and then show you what we put together for you. So we look forward to having you there. Lots of love to all of you. Recognize what's always here. Recognize what doesn't come and go. What includes separation. What's already inclusive. I think you'll discover your own heart is the center of everything. And the heart of being is where we all meet. This is oneself talking to oneself. And imagine when we all, enough of us come from oneself, what we won't do together. So we're really all in this together, and send you guys love. Bye, Joey.
See ya. Thanks, everybody.